how we met Abel. Abel, this is not a EXP event, but we met him through EXP. And TJ and I decided to go down to Miami, which I would highly recommend to any of y'all wanting to do some business planning. Just get out of this area. We did a direct flight. We stayed at a nice resort there and just spent a couple of days brainstorming our business. And we were trying to find some office locations to be able to do that for the day. And Abel was so gracious to invite us into his office. We got to spend the day there. We got to meet a lot of his agents. We met one of his agents that was doing around 50 million a year. And we said, hey, what keeps you here? He says, man, Abel does all the things that I don't like doing. And he's good at that. And I'm good at sales. And I want to be in a position to be able to thrive. And it's a great match. And then he showed us a lot of the systems that he was using in the background. And then he told us, he says, we're coming for you in Florida. So I truly believe it. Like, man, we need to up our game because Abel is coming for us. I remember I said that to Veronica too, and I finally passed her, but then she just went nationally. So, okay, I maybe got you in Florida, but she got me everywhere else. But I honestly believe no matter what brokerage you're at, what your background is, the more that we can share ideas, the more that we grow together. And Abel's going to share a little bit of background of himself and just give you some really great things that he's using to elevate his business. And it's some of the things that we're actually incorporating into our business now since meeting with Abel, and we're already seeing improvement of what we're building. And so for the agents that are on our team, you're going to get to see firsthand things that Abel's using that we're going to be incorporating into our business a good bit. And for those of you that have not met Abel, I think you'll get some really great insight. This is going to be designed for people that are looking to grow teams, people that want to have better operations within their business, just having a better plan, because as you know, as agents, we become very reactive without a plan. And hopefully at the end of the day today, you'll walk out of this with a much better plan to build a predictable business. So it's all yours, Abel. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen, but while I do that, I wanted to share a very funny real-time situation. So we were pacing to be the #1 team in Florida for the month of October. And we had it until like 3 days ago. And then when I look at the leaderboard, you guys passed us by $80,000 in volume. So I was like, oh my God, no. Like last minute. So, but you know what? If there was somebody that I don't mind being number two in 2025, 2026 is a different story. It's you guys. So
we're always cheering you on to win. I want everyone to win, and quite frankly, the ego sometimes will get in your way. But ultimately, I tell all of our agents, I want them to become a better agent than I am. And when we just lost a deal to a girl that came up through our team. She's independent. We lost a listing to her. And instead of being frustrated, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I was so proud of her. She's probably coming back into our team, but it's great to see growth. Thank you, Jeanette, for joining us as well. And so, yeah, it's all yours, Abel. Really appreciate your insight today.
No, I appreciate it too. I'm just trying to figure. I'm not a big
user. Share screen,
be like an up arrow at the bottom. If there's an up arrow, hit that. It'll say share screen.
And then you want to click share entire screen. I know you're a Zoom guy. We've been using Google Business Platform, but yeah, if you click the screen at the bottom with the arrow, it'll say share screen, and then you select entire screen. There you go. And then you could when you so like it shows this now, but when you actually click on the screen that you're wanting to click on, it won't show the duplicates of everybody.
Sorry, my expert here is going to help me out, because what happened is that I'm using the new ChatGPT browser, so I think that's why it's not letting me show the Canva that's on Chrome.
Okay.
So for
TJ
Google,
was just giving tech advice. Love it, TJ.
Yeah, for Google, just to let you know, the bottom screen with the arrow and it's your share screen. You select entire screen, and then whatever bar you click on, whatever it is, it's going to show that entire screen.
Got it. Okay, so let's try this. So let me do entire screen, and now share. Okay, so you guys see my entire screen, right?
Yeah.
So, and then once you click on the tab that you want to use, at the top of your screen. There you go.
You guys see that?
Yep, we
Yeah.
all see it.
Okay, cool. Now, but because I want to see you guys, so let me just move this over here. You guys see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, but I don't see you. So one moment.
We should be in a sidebar off to the right. But if you can't see us, Abel, and you go through your presentation, first of all, y'all, let's hold the questions to the end. His presentation is going to be about 20 minutes. And then let's just hold all the questions to the end. And you can basically say, stop, share your screen from there, Abel, and then you'll be right back into the mix.
Got it. Okay, so then just forgive me if I'm like looking back and forth in my screens because I'm not gonna be able to see your faces. So yeah, so I'm gonna be looking around, but I just want to make sure that you guys do see my screen.
We see it perfectly now, and then we'll hold the questions to the end so we're not disrupting your
Okay,
presentation.
cool. All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Nate. Thank you, TJ, for inviting me to your space. Like I said, I know a couple of your agents, and it's so great to see them again. And I look forward to meeting you, whoever I haven't met yet. So when I was putting together this presentation, really what I was thinking about is really about like how do we build our businesses, and one area that I think a lot of us can relate to is you guys are familiar with handymans, right? Like people that aren't really contractors, that aren't really architects. And what I've learned about being a handyman is that, you know, typically when you're building your life, when you're building your business, sometimes we build that as handymans, right? But there's also the option, right, if you are intentional, of building it like a contractor, right? And the difference is that handymans just show up, right, when someone needs them. They get a call and they show up. They react. They follow someone else's plan, right? Like they're not really showing up with a blueprint. They're just following somebody else's plan. But the difference between a handyman and a contractor is that contractors, they lead with vision. They build with purpose because every decision is part of a bigger design. So, and I know, Nate, that you introduced me, but just to give you guys a little bit more context, I'm in Miami, as you know. I lead One Path Realty. We are a team model. And since we started, we've sold about $2 billion in sales, and we've helped over 4,000 families since we started our team. And you know, through this whole process, I've learned a lot, not just in business, but also about myself as a man, as a leader. And I want to tell you guys a quick story as we get started with this. There was this one Thursday afternoon. It was about this time of the year, you know, that time of the year when the days end, when they get darker earlier, right? Like I personally like when you wake up and the sun is out, but then when the day ends, right? Like it feels like, oh my God, it's like 9 p.m., but it's really like 6 p.m., right? So there was this one Thursday, it was around this time of the year. And I had a bunch of showings lined up. And I have this routine with my kids where I take them to school every day, and I also put them to bed every night. And this specific week, I had already missed a couple of days because I had gotten home late. And this one Thursday, I was able to get home a little earlier, but both of my girls were already sleeping. But my son, AJ, he was still awake. He was already dressed in his pajamas, waiting for me to put him to bed. And that specific month, I was still an agent. And that specific month, I had 18 deals under contract by myself. And, you know, when I got home, what I wanted to do is I just wanted to organize. Like, I just wanted to organize my deals. And I remember doing this boomerang. So I put my son to sleep next to me, and he literally became my desk, right? Because I didn't have space. I didn't have space to put my paperwork, so I laid it all on top of him. And I was in a season of my career, where it was like cool to show how busy I was. But after seeing this boomerang, it also exposed to me who I was becoming. And I realized that I was becoming exactly who I promised myself not to be, which was not to be an absent dad. You see, as a kid, I promised myself to be the father that I didn't have, right? I didn't have a father that was present. And I caught myself realizing that I was trading my values for volume. I realized that I was trading conversion for connection with my own kids. And I don't know, maybe you can relate. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're there right now. But that moment of clarity made me realize that we have a choice. And, we have a choice of either building by design or just by default, right? Where we're just drifting and things just happen. And, what usually happens is that we follow paths that are designed by others, right? Typically our parents, circumstances, maybe previous leaders. And what happens is that we end up reacting instead of creating. And when we start optimizing, we don't optimize for intention, we optimize for comfort. And again, I'm saying all of this from experience. But in that process, we also have a choice, right? Because if you do realize that you're in that position, you have a choice to go from circumstantial to intentional, right? And that's when you find yourself in a situation. But the goal when you find yourself in that situation is to acknowledge, right, that you're there and to make a decision to make a shift. Now, what I realized is that it's very simple. In business, we could actually use the very principles that are used by architects to design and build buildings. Like we could literally use those same principles to design our own businesses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 3 pillars of business architecture. And the first one is the foundation. And, when it comes to foundation, to me, foundation is not just about like being clear about your goals, but it's also about being clear about your core values. It's about being clear about your vision. The foundation of your business, it really rests on the values or lack of values that you're willing to tolerate. Because you see, it's not just about having values, because if you don't have values, that's also a significant difference. In our business, we have, these are our 4 core values, which stand for family, action, collaboration, and trust, which we made it into the acronym called FACT. And these core values, they're just not 4 words on the wall. They actually represent our culture. Now, what I recommend, if you don't have core values yet in your business, I think it's worth you taking the time to reflect and figure out, what does your business stand for? In fact, when it comes to core values, I even think it's important for you to have core values even for yourself, right? Like my family and I, my 3 kids, my wife and I, we have core values for our home. Now, there's a saying, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but it says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So when agents come into our office, what I realized was that it was important to not just for us to have the core values, but to also make sure that they are visible enough, right? Not just for them to see it, but also where we live by them, right? So that's why we have a very collaborative environment, because that is one of our core values. And, we're a family-owned business. And like what I tell everybody is that knowledge, there's a saying that says knowledge is power. To me, knowledge is potential power. Action is power. Because if you learn but you don't take action, it's useless, right? So that's why that's another one of our core values. Now, when it comes to being intentional and being clear, this is our purpose, our ultimate purpose for our agents. This is on our website, and I put this QR code here so that you guys can go directly to our consumer-facing website. If there's anything you guys want to copy, go to our website. I also invite you to go to our Instagram. The handle you see on the bottom left, that's my personal Instagram. But you can also go to our One Path Realty Instagram, and any ideas, anything you guys need, feel free to copy them. If you need anything from us, also, we'll be more than happy to share with you. When it comes to inspiration, inspiration fades, but systems last. And what happens with core values and having clear purpose is that they inspire agents, right? But inspiration has to lead to implementing systems that allow you to sustain the culture. Because if you are just depending on inspiration, then it's going to fade. But you got to lead that inspiration into influence so that you can create systems. And the reality is that the foundation of your business, it's only as strong as the foundation of you, your leader, right? Like you as a leader. Now, one thing I realized was that, for my team, we have SOPs for everything. But for the one thing that mattered most, me, I had nothing intentional, no clarity. I didn't have blueprint. And I realized that if my systems didn't protect me, the human, the business would eventually destroy me, the builder. Which is why that, clarity, and this is also for you guys to also have the right expectations, which is that clarity doesn't strike like lightning, right? It comes slowly, but you have to be willing to ask the hard questions. And typically, those hard questions and those answers, they come in the lonely nights. They come in the quiet moments with no audience, right? Like if you try to come up with these answers during your busy go days in between showings, it's not going to happen. You have to be willing to dedicate, like Nate and TJ did, right? Like let's get out of town, let's go focus, let's go, get focused on our business. Like you have to be willing to take those moments off of your busyness so that you can come up with those answers that are the ones that are actually going to make a difference. Now, this is an example of all the important categories in both my personal and professional life. And there's also a brief description that explains what they're about. Now, I want you to notice something, which is the words that I use. You see, whenever it comes to like making decisions for yourself, it's so important to use words that trigger emotional reaction. Right. And I'll give you an example. There's a section there. I noticed, I think only Kiara speaks Spanish here. So most of you don't understand this, but el mejor papá means the best dad. Right. And like I shared with you at the beginning of this presentation, for me, being the best father means a lot. Right. Because I didn't have that growing up. But the reason why I did this was because, like I told you, for my business, I had all the categories. But for my personal, I didn't, right? So I had to get very clear about what those important categories were so that I can create with intention, so that I don't just wing it, so that I don't just, just drift, right? Like we were talking about boating. Sometimes you drift, you don't put the anchor and you're just drifting, right? So like this helps you be clear about what those categories are.
That's great.
Now, when it comes to, again, building, that's the second step, right? The structure. We talked about foundation. The second piece of building is structure. And this is where the frameworks come in, right? This is where the systems come in. They need to be in place so that your business can go on even when you're absent, right? And one thing I learned in the journey of my own business was that there's a difference between being a business operator and being a business owner, right? And this is the best way to describe the difference. If you go on vacation and your business stops, you're an operator. If you go on vacation and your business keeps running, you're a business owner, right? So you have to have frameworks and systems in place for you to truly be a business owner. Now, but the key is this: you have to create processes over personality. Create processes over personality, because what's going to happen in business is that people are going to come and go, but that doesn't mean that your frameworks and that your systems should change every time somebody leaves, right? So that's why you got to design over personality. It's got to be systems. Now, here are these are each of the departments in my business, and there's also an example of some of the SOPs that keep the whole machine running. There's actually more systems now, but this is a great description. Now, systems are fundamental, and for each department, but in our business, having staff to run those systems is also an absolute requirement. And here's an example of what each member of our staff does for each of our departments. This is also—
I love that, Abel. I love that you have that culture piece as well, and that you make that a centerpiece of one of your, pillars of keeping the culture within your community of your business. I found that fascinating whenever I saw you in your office have a dedicated position for that, which I thought was spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, we have a culture manager. That's what Teach is referring, the person he's referring to. Because what we realized is that, as leaders, it's so hard to be on top of everything, especially the pulse, right, of your agents, right? Like, what's going on in their lives? Like, how are they doing? Maybe one of their dogs passed away. Maybe their mom is sick, right? So like, it's important to have someone always on top of knowing what's happening, so that person can then inform us, so that we can then do something about it, right? Because like, what happens with us in this business is that we sometimes spend more time with our agents and our staff than with our own families, right? But if you're not aware of what's going on in their own lives, it's a contradiction in a way, right? With like what you say you're building. And back to systems, and back to— this is a very important piece, because I always, through my coaches and through people I've worked with, the word I always heard was delegation, right? Like, delegate this, delegate that. But what I realized about delegation is that when you delegate something, you're basically giving it away, right? Like, here, have it, good luck, right? Let me know when it's done, do it. But what I learned that works best for me is leverage, right? And what the difference between delegation and leverage is that when you leverage, you're still involved, right? But the way that I stay involved is through this formula, which is the 10-80-10, right? Which means that when a project starts, as the visionary, I'm putting in 10%, right? Like, here's the idea. This is where I recommend we take this. Then the person that drives the project or the initiative within the department runs with it and does 80% of the work. And then once that 80% of the work is complete, then we meet again so that we can put in the last 10%, right? That's when I come back in, and then we deploy it, right? So that has worked so much better than delegating, because now, instead of like me seeing something that I don't like, right, because they did it without my green light, right, now it's like I do get to be involved in that process. So that's why I prefer leverage over delegation.
Well, and Abel, one of the things that we talked about when you're at your office, for those of you that are on here that are not running teams, is that I'll be the first to admit, we've grown a team that has very similar production levels to you. But what happened is that we would get in our own way. And I think, what I shared in a previous session about just discovering your working genius, it's been the most aha moment for me, because our operational team that we're building right now, and they're on here today between, Adele, Clay, Maddie, and some other layers. It's like, I love the vision, and then let them run with it, because they're actually going to build a better system because their genius is aligned with that. And then you're coming back in the back end to see what they've built and to have collaboration in that. And what you're going to find, for those of you that are on our team, is that TJ and I, for the first time in our careers, because we've been like bulls in a china shop, we've discovered where our best attributes are, so that we can elevate the people that are part of our organization, so that they can actually create a better version of our organization than we could, because you can't do it all. And so if you're an agent on here, or if you're a team leader, trying to do too many things actually takes away and depletes what you're truly capable of. And even these agents that, like, when you're saying, hey, when you leave, if your systems are dialed in enough and what we're building, or what you're building with another team, and you go out of town and you have those connectability pieces that are still working for you, which is why it's so important to truly plug into your CRM, or to have a partner within the team that can step in to help you while you're gone, and you can do the same. You can actually start building a more purposeful life, because we can all admit this business can be so reactive, and it gets us off our game of what we're really trying to build. So I love the leverage over delegation.
Yeah. The biggest chokehold of a business is its leader, right? Like, has it ever happened to you, to any of you here? And by the way, I can't see your faces, so I can't see if you're covered by a plastic bag or you're going like this. So I'm only looking at Nate right now. So, but has it ever happened to you that the reason why things get stuck, it's because of you, right? It's because you as a leader. So, yeah, I think, like, us as leaders, at whatever size, by the way, right? Like, you as an agent in a team, like, you are your own leader, right? Like, you have your team leaders that are providing you with the environment, with the systems, with the opportunities. But the one that gets to decide, right? Like, at what time you wake up, at what time you start making your calls, at what time you follow up on clients, like, that's you, right? So you're your own chokehold, right? So no matter what level you're in, the key is to figure out how to get others to help you get out of your own way, right? And that's through the growth of a real estate company, real estate team. When you invest back in your business, the best way to invest is through people, right? Because that's the way that you're able to provide a much better experience. That's the way you're able to leverage, right? So that you can get out of your own way, right? Like, we talked about this, TJ and Nate, like, you guys are right now back in doing the things you wanted to do, right? And that's the ultimate goal. Like, not to do the things you have to, but the things you want to.
That's right.
And every one of you are running a real estate business. You're not a real estate agent. If you're really focused on growing this, you are, share that with your customer. I'm running a real estate business, because that's exactly what you're building as an independent contractor.
Yeah. Now, this is the third part of this design, of this part, right? Which is the design. And this is actually the fun part, because this is where you get to decide what the inside of your business feels like, right? Like, this is where you get to, just like an interior designer, decide the colors, design the message, design, everything that's inside the business. However, if you start your business focused on the design instead of the foundation and the structure, your business is always going to be very fragile, right? And I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but, like, I've seen this before, and I actually did this myself at the beginning, where instead of focusing on structure and systems, we focused on, what it looks like, what it feels like. But then when it's time for you to sustain the business, you don't have the structure, you don't have the systems yet. So it's important that when you're thinking about design, or maybe even redesign, you have that clarity, that structure, structure and systems come first, right? Because that's what's going to lead to the production and the revenue that your business needs in order for it to be sustainable. Now, when it comes to design, there's also another piece that's really important, which is the redesign, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, I've had to redesign myself, not once, not twice. Like, I've redesigned myself, my business multiple times, right? Like, in fact, like, even I'll go as personal as this. 2 years ago, I was 40 pounds heavier, right? And the reason why I made a decision, I made the decision to redesign myself is because I knew that so many other things depended on me being optimal, right? So like, you have to always be in this mindset of like revisiting, right? Like doing honest assessments of yourself to decide if you are good where you're at, right? And or making the decision to reinventing yourself. And I know it can feel scary, maybe even overwhelming, but my recommendation is to embrace it every time. Because again, you're probably going to have to do this multiple times during your journey. But here's what I realized in the redesign process. There's actually 5 steps, right? And this is, again, what I realized in my own journey of redesigning. The first thing you need to have clarity, right? Like, to me, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit more in just a moment. But like, clarity comes when you get clear about what matters most to you in your life, right? Like, that's why I showed you guys my personal categories. That's where I got clear, right? Because I think, I mean, in my case, I don't know about you guys, but I had this bad habit of committing to a lot of things, right? I was committing to way too many things. And then what those things were doing was it was blocking me from what truly mattered most, which leads to the next piece of this, which is commitment, right? Like, you need to commit to a purpose, but that's why you got to get crystal clear about what are you purposeful about, right? Like, what matters to you most in your personal or in your professional categories, right? Like, I'll give you a quick example from personal, right? Like I told you, my kids, my relationship with my wife, my spiritual journey, right? And then in my professional life, my agents, right? Like the way that I communicate with people. So like, you just got to get very specific on what those categories are. And then the next category that's important in redesigning is the people, right? It is so important to audit your circle, right? Like, we are a reflection of the people around us, both not just personal, professional too, right? Like, are you putting yourselves in the right environments? To be honest, and this is not an EXP event, but like, that's one of the reasons why I made the decision that it was best for us to transition. That was one of the main factors, right? To transition to EXP, because as an independent broker, I was in a silo, right? I was on my own. Yeah, I had a great team, like I still do. But when it came to a perspective of leadership, I was on my own, right? And the people that I chose to be in alignment with, man, like, now it's like, I'm excited. And it's so important to align yourself in environments that are helping you continue to elevate. And the next thing that comes, that's a very important factor. In fact, I think the most important factor in the redesign process is taking action, right? Back to like, knowledge is power, but it's not. It's really potential power. Action is power. If you're figuring all this out, where you have the clarity, you commit, you audit your circle, but if you're not then taking action, then nothing is going to happen. You got to take action. And to me, this is the result, right? And like, I'm a very analytical person because I'm a systems person. So like, I kind of reverse engineered it, right? Like, I ultimately, I said to myself, what do I want? I don't want happiness, right? Because I know that happiness, it's like, it comes and goes. I wanted joy, I didn't want it to just be like dependent on something. I wanted to be lasting. And I realized, okay, how am I going to get to joy? So I reverse engineered it. So in order for me to have joy, I need to have a purpose. But in order for me to have purpose, I need to be clear, right? And that's how I got to the point of just feeling joyful, right? Like at all times, like I'm enjoying this conversation with you guys, although I can't even see your faces. Like I'm literally just looking at a blank screen, but I'm joyful because I hope that it's gonna help, right? So and it's so infectious, right? Like when you like I hope I'm not coming across as like, I don't know, I'm making this up. Like I think you guys can tell authenticity from fakeness, right? But like when you live in a state of joy, you don't have to try hard. It's your energy. And in this process of business, right? Like I think what we're all striving for is success, right? But when it comes to success, what I realize is that success is an opinion, right? Because success to me might not be the same for you and vice versa. Success to you might not be for me, right? But that's why what matters most is for you to be clear about what your success means to you, not for someone else. And then for those of you that have a significant other, right? Alignment about success, about what matters most is so important. Because if you're not in alignment about that, then it's like just swimming against the current. And, for me, this is my success. For me, I think that for most of us, we don't have to look much further than our own families to find the inspiration that we need. However, the definition of success, I've realized this changes depending on the season that you're in, right? It depends on the season that you're in. And it's okay because what inspires you to succeed will change. Like one day my kids are going to grow up, right? So like my purpose will be different. Maybe for some of you, your kids, already grew up and they're no longer home. So like I realized that in every season, I'm going to have to redesign, right, what that success is like. Now, for me right now, success is the sense of the joy that I feel when I can look into the eyes of my loved ones and know that I am living by intention, right? Where I'm not just drifting, or I'm not just like getting home and I'm exhausted and I'm not even spending time with my kids, right? Like this same level of passion and energy, like I have to, like I get home and I tell my wife, honey, give me a few minutes, let me like recover, but then I'm all in with my family. You see, to me, the most powerful thing that I'm going to build is who I am in their eyes, right? Because everything goes away, but who you become in their eyes, to me at least, is the most important. I've realized that what you build in your business, and more important, your family, is going to outlive you. And that's why it's so important to build it with purpose. So what I challenge you guys is to figure out what drives you, right? What drives you. I figured out that for me, that's what drives me. So I challenge you guys to figure out what drives you. Thank you guys. Thank you for
Thanks,
this.
Ken. It really spoke to me because I think we can all, like, whether you're a team leader on here, a broker owner, or you're an agent that's growing in your path, I can tell you from 24 years in this business where I've made a lot of mistakes is that I was just reacted to how things are coming at me. It's just like, hey, I'm busy being busy and jumping into everything. And as I've grown in this business, and really the most pivotal thing to me of any exercise I've ever taken is that workinggenius.com, because it allowed me to see the operators that are on our team, where their genius is and where I need to stay out of my way. And I think so often in real estate, we just get stuck in this minutia of like tasks and reaction, and we don't get the growth that we're hoping for. We don't find the success that we're hoping for. And we feel almost just like overwhelmed without the success. And I think so often, I didn't realize for years, I was working truly on my frustrations. I was working on operations. It's just not who I am. I was working on all these different layers. And since I took Working Genius, I actually started plugging it into AI and said, hey, this is my Working Genius. What should I be doing more of? And I started plugging into more of that. Lately, I've had the best relationship that I've had with my son, I think, ever, because I'm intentional when I get home, where he's my little workout partner now, and he's pushing me. And where before, TJ knows it, and some of us know this, we'll come home, we're on the phone, we don't get off, we go to bed, we wake up, we look at the phone, we have no plan, no purpose, no drive to what we're building. You got to pause and say, why am I in this business? What do I want to achieve from this business? What's so important to me that when I show up for this business, I'm going to show up intentional and more driven than any of my competition? Because if I do this now, this is what's going to lead to the aftermath afterwards. The reward is the effort. And I think so often we don't have a plan. And one of the things that we're doing as a company, and I encourage all of you with your teams or you're on a team, is you have to really take the time to build intention. And like even our core values, right? I had core values, 7 core values. I believed in them, whatever. We saw, this is just us being a sponge for knowledge. We saw Abel's core values. I'm like, you know what? And I haven't even rolled these out to our team on the level that we're going to. He had 4 words, right? It was easy to remember. And we looked at all the things that we had in our core values, and even being in Miami of recreating and redesigning, TJ and I redesigned our core values that we're going to be rolling out to our team. We redesigned what our vision is, which we're going to be rolling out to you soon. We redesigned what our purpose is. And we also realized that we needed really great people in our life to fulfill the void that we continue to step into to try to figure out on our own within our frustrations, and wondered why we're burned out. I can tell you in the past quarter, 6 months, I've seen the best version of TJ because he's starting to come into that space. We're starting to believe in other people more than ourselves because they're more gifted in that space than we are. And you as agents, you need to really understand what you're striving for and who you are as a person and what you need to be focused on. And you plug that into some AI, it was amazing. It's like, get the hell away from this, focus on this, replace yourself with this. And I can tell you our operations teams have these discussions. Maddie and Clay came to me and they're like, what are your thoughts? I'm like, what are your thoughts? And they're like, we really like this. I said, I believe in your decision on this space more than my own decision, because if I'm leading in this space, which I'm not as gifted at as you are, I'm going to lose. And I'm going to actually depower you from having empowerment. And so all of you, like, couple up with some of you, like, hey, I got your back, you got mine. Like, you can team up within teams too and help each other where your voids are. But I would highly recommend all of you just go into workinggenius.com. I think that's the first spot to find who you are and where your natural genius is, so that you can actually start building a path that's going to elevate you. Because right now, lately, when I'm showing up, I'm jacked up when I'm waking up every morning for work, because I'm like, I got a bigger purpose than I've ever had before. And I have people in my life that are really helping me elevate.
Since you mentioned AI, Nate, I just shared with you guys a prompt. So I've been using AI since like almost day one. I'm now using, I embedded this prompt into the memory of my whole ChatGPT account, right? Because within my ChatGPT account, I have different projects in which I communicate about different things. But I added this prompt into the memory of my ChatGPT, and oh my God, like it changed everything, because what I realized was that my ChatGPT was always very agreeable, right? It was always like, it was like a cheerleader, which I kind of didn't mind, right? I was happy. I was like, wow, like, honey, like I would show my wife, I'm like, look what it says about me. But once I started using this prompt, once I embedded this prompt into my ChatGPT, it got real. It got like, it gave me the hard truth. So I recommend you guys consider it. Maybe don't say from now on, stop being agreeable. Maybe like, hey, let's give this a try. Like instead of like change it, just to see if you guys can adjust, because it goes from having this unconditional cheerleader to now having like a real, like, hard truth companion, advisor. Right?
I love it.
Yeah. So
That's crazy. Stop tooting my horn and just give me the real, the good, the bad, the ugly. Where do I need to get better?
Yeah. I didn't feel as special anymore once I started using this prompt, but I like it because now, like I'll give you an example. Today I did an interview for someone for a big position that I'm hiring for, and like I prepared like my presentation and our conversation with this prompt, and it honestly like it told me ahead of time like, hey, look, typically when you have these interviews, you make the following mistakes. Don't do that again. Like do this instead, and it makes a big difference.
Well,
I mean, my biggest takeaway was knowledge. Knowledge isn't power. Action is. I catch myself being a sponge. I love real estate. I love the act of selling real estate. I love the hustle behind it. I love the money you can make. I love that the sky is the limit. I love it all. And I'm a sponge for it. And I kept, I could call myself pretty dangerous at it, but I catch myself being, even in something that we're doing right now. I used to be here and I would listen and I would be like, oh, wow, that's pretty good. Oh, wow, that's pretty good. Didn't write it down. Didn't put it in a spot I could go back to. And really, did I have the knowledge and did I hear what was said? Yes. But I never went back to go create the action behind it. And it's so true. Us as agents, we get in this rigmarole where we're like, just like you said, I got a real estate coach. I got a business coach. I've got somebody working on AI for me. I've got somebody coaching me at this. I'm going to go to this mastermind. I'm going to go to that mastermind. I'm going to be at EXPCon. You go and do all these things and you hear from some of these amazing people, but you don't implement one thing of it. And that's where that was such a strong point, Abel, of listen, like you can know everything under the sun, but if you don't take any action with it, none of that knowledge is power anymore at all. And so I find that, I find us, just like Nate said, as agents, we get in this mode that we call busy, but none of it is actionable. None of it is a money-making activity. And we come home, we're like, whoo, man, today was a day. It was stressful. And then you go look back and you didn't get not one thing done. And so I love that saying. I think it's extremely powerful. And I appreciate you touching on that because it's so easy to get lost in the mix.
Kiara?
For sure. Kiara?
I was going to say, I met Abel at Build@Sea, which was literally the most amazing experience and conference. And, you talked a lot about, like the systems and the processes and everything, but also about that clarity that we have for our own businesses, right? And one of the things that Nick Frem made us do, speaking of AI, was to create a song. And Abel, I actually used your blueprint. I mean, your song made me cry. I think I actually listened to it. I mean, I don't know if you want to share it with everyone, but it's such a beautiful song. And it's about, like our values and the clarity and what we need to do to take that action. And that's a song that I did my blueprint based off of yours, your template, and I put that into ChatGPT, and then I put that into Sonos or whatever the song app is, and I listen to that song every single morning, and it inspires me. It's like, what are the things that I need to do to be better as an agent, as a person, as a wife, as a parent, right? So that's a really cool thing to do. It's the song. I mean, you will cry to your own song and AI makes it, and it's literally amazing.
That's awesome. Your own inspirational song that's built around you. I can tell you one of the things that we just learned through an AI platform that was really cool. If you go into ChatGPT and you can pay for the cheapest account, a lot of times people are using GPT as just like a Google search. It's the wrong way to use it. You need to look at it as your administrator that is part of your business that you're building. And you can actually go in there and create your own personal GPT. And so what we're doing right now as a company, we're building Abbott Martin Group GPT. And then what you do, you can have a private setting on it that the people that are having access to it are the people that you share, and you just start feeding it everything about your business, who you are, what you're doing, what type of contracts are you doing, what are the things that you're working on, and it's an index that you can say over time, like, hey, GPT, can you share with me the listing scripts on file? Hey, GPT, can you share with me, I want the marketing template for X. Hey, GPT, and you start feeding it. And now instead of using it as a Google search of everyone else's information, you start serving it your information. And what else it does is when people start looking on AI, you start populating because now it knows who you are and what you're about. So ask GPT, say, hey, what do you know about me? Share what you know about me. Use this prompt right here. And if you're not seeing yourself in AI searches, you need to start saying, hey, how can I be more relevant in AI search? But we're building out this GPT. You can build out your personal GPT, and you can start indexing all the things in there so that it's just storing it for you, and almost like a Google Drive, but not having to search for it, because you just tell it, hey, this is what I need. And then when you ask it for advice, because it knows your business, it's going to give advice based off of the knowledge that you continue to feed it that you may have forgotten about over time. So we're going to upload our Google Drive, all the pieces in there, and then it'll still help us organize it like a true Rolodex of our business that all of you can also use as well. So just this AI is on a different level, and if you don't incorporate it into your business, you'll lose.
TJ, I wanna touch on something, TJ, before you speak, because it's important and it's based on what you said before, right, about busyness. And something I notice about myself, right, is that being busy feels productive, but it's often a clever form of avoidance, right? Like we use our busyness as an excuse to avoid like having those quiet moments, right, of like answering the questions. And what happens is that we confuse momentum with movement, right? Like we're moving, we're up and down, we're showing houses, we're in the office, we're making calls, but is it really creating momentum? And that's why, like again, guys, I'm an operator, and I'm also a visionary, right? So it's a weird mix, right? But I figured it out. Like right now, I'm like literally looking for a way to replace myself as an operator, because I really like the highest and best use of my time is through the other role. But you don't get there by just avoiding, like figuring things out.
That's right. And for me, I always used to look at the rebuild or the redesign as a huge nuisance, as a scary thing, as a, I don't want to do that because I'm stuck in I like this way. And it was a scary thing. And I watched Nathan do it before I was his partner and I was just an agent on his team. I mean, I was one of, I think, 3 agents outside of the 15 that he had. And I just watched him clean house and was like, whoa, okay. All right. Let's keep this thing moving. And he did it. And I watched, just like you said, Abel, I watched him go from chaos to clarity. Like I watched him go from I'm doing things that I don't find culturally in the right feeling in my heart. I'm doing things in a way that I don't see the vision to. He was doing so many things that I could tell wasn't fueling who Nathan is as a human. And he cleaned house and everything got better. And you get scared that things are going to get worse, that you're not going to be able to rebuild it right. You're not going to be able to have these same things in order, but it got better. And then I started realizing as I became Nathan's partner, we did that when we joined EXP. It was a scary thing. It was like, oh my gosh, Nathan has an amazing brand. Abbott Realty Services had an amazing brand. Are we really going to dissolve this? Is this the right thing to do? We rebuilt, redesigned, got even better. And now it's become, I'm loving it. Like, I'm like, hey, when are we going on our next trip to start redesign? You know what I mean? Like, sure. Because it turns into, once you do have, like you said, the people that you trust, that when you do redesign, they're going to believe in your redesign and they want to be a part of that redesign. And those things, as you combine forces, and even if you're an independent agent, I'm sure you have ancillary people in your business you speak to, people you trust, could be a title agent, could be a lender, but those people are still your people. They're in your corner. And now I've gotten to the point where redesign and rebuild has become a part of excitement and a part of a way in growth within our team and with the people who are on our operational staff to get closer to us and for us to get closer to them and for us to see how truly amazing they are. And Nathan said one time that stuck with me, really, like, stuck with me since he said it, was that, like, we aren't the inspiration. You guys are the inspiration. And seeing people, not even on our team, but the people in the marketplace grow and become some of these really strong agents or really strong operators, like seeing those things are the inspiration for us. And that rebuild and then attaching to people and seeing their expertise and their genius just magnify and watching me and Nathan be able to step out of the way and see our genius magnify, it's just an exceptional feeling. And so if you're in that feeling where you feel like you do need to change your business up, you do need to change your model, or you do need to change the way you're doing things, I can tell you from experience and 15 years in this and redoing things probably 3 to 4 times in my business, every single time it's gotten better. And every single time I've gotten more and more people around me that I truly love and truly want to wake up and work hard for. And I've been able to push out the people that were that negativity, that were those people that I thought were giving me that push, but they were actually dragging me down. So just don't be scared of it. If you think it's that time for you to redesign or rebuild, be excited about that, because I think you'll find a light at the end of the tunnel with some people in your corner that truly just mean a lot to you, and that they care about you a lot and your business.
Yeah, I totally agree. Guys, I want to be respectful of the time. I really appreciate all of you that are here. We're going to go deeper on kind of the systems that we're using on the next level, but I can tell you a lot of the systems that we used with Abel, we realized where we needed to make some shifts. And how did that happen? Being a sponge for another agent that we felt connected with, and then paying that forward to other people and continuing to grow in that realm. So look at agents that you surround yourself with as truly being your best customer, that are sharing for the right reasons. Because I can tell you this, like, friction that agents have, it's so destructive to your business. And when you can learn to just let your guard down, open up, share ideas, connect, we can all grow together, because there's so much business to be had, but you have to have the focus, the drive, the purpose, the action is where most people fail the most. And then adapt when needed to continue to elevate to that next space. So thanks, Abel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for those of you that are not on our team that joined today. I really love seeing some new faces on here. If we can ever be of any help to you, if anything in this industry, I've been in it for 24 years. Abel's been in it for a long time. We've also touched north of 4,000 transactions. You've seen a lot of different layers, and I can tell you, you learn from failure. You learn from when it doesn't work right. You never really learn from wins. You learn from when it doesn't work, and you adapt and you make it better and you make it stronger. So don't be fearful of the losses, because the losses are what actually leads to the wins in the long run. Thanks, Abel. Thanks, everyone. We'll keep you engaged on the next monthly session that we'll have next month. Appreciate y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.